Kelly girl, hey. So you wrote in saying that you had a work from home accommodation since 2021, and in 2024 they finally did the interactive process, which resulted in you having to go back to the office. You all have a rotating schedule to work from home 1 month. I believe it goes on to say 1 month every 4 months, right? And that's not really meeting your medical needs. Well, Kelly girl, I definitely don't think you're crazy for thinking that this is discrimination, particularly because you had a 3-year reasonable accommodation, and then they suddenly did a formal interactive process. I don't know what they call what happened when it was approved, but they did a formal interactive process, and now they somehow think that, oh, you can return to the office full time and just telework 1 month 3 times a year like everybody else in the office. Well, that's a nice benefit that they offer everyone else in the office, but you're the person with a medical condition, with a disability that requires a job protected leave status of reasonable accommodation. Especially if other departments, as you say in your comment, y'all probably can't see that, if other departments are teleworking 2 to 3 days a week and you're the one with a medical condition. So the way this is supposed to work, the interactive process and the determining of what that reasonable accommodation is that you're going to receive is supposed to be an individualized assessment, an individualized process that the employer and the employee work through together. It's not supposed to be some one-size-fits-all band-aid that they slap across it and say, oh, well, this is what works for us, so this is what we want you to do. That's control. That's not an accommodation. That's not a reasonable accommodation. If your accommodation was that you needed a standing desk, if your accommodation was that you needed a private office, if you're like, and everybody sits in cubicles, like, are they going to still offer you the, oh, well, you can be remote 1 month 3 times a year, so that's cool? No, it needs to be reasonable. It needs to directly relate to the functional limitation that you have. It needs to, in some significant way, align with what your medical professional has recommended. And it needs to, most importantly, this is a key word, it needs to be effective, okay? If you have a condition that flares up periodically, while being able to remote work for a month 3 times a year is a lovely perk, it does not help you for the 3 months where you are in the office and your condition is flaring up twice a week, right? Like, how does that serve you? So now you have to use FMLA, or you have to use your sick leave, or your annual or PTO when that time comes. I don't really know. I don't know, but this is problematic. You also mentioned, Kelly girl, that this went into place after you all got a new GM and a new contract, and that these changes are only affecting longer term, higher paid employees. So that seems very, very targeted in nature, right? Like they're picking on a specific group of people. So I definitely think that you're onto something. If you feel comfortable calling the EEOC, speaking with a counselor, and trying to see, what your options are, you can call and ask questions and lay out the situation, get an appointment without actually going through and filing a complaint if you're not ready for that yet. However, if you need help drafting an email, you can definitely shoot me a message, shoot me a DM, and I will send you a template that you can send out that kind of caters to your situation. I hope that helps. And anybody else is dealing with something like this, where they're trying to give you typical agency-based benefits and call them reasonable accommodations, no ma'am, no sir. That's not a reasonable accommodation. It's not individualized. It is not meeting your specific medical need. Then it don't count. And we need to get back to the drawing board of this interactive process. They need to be operating within the interactive process in good faith. Okay, that is how the legislation is written. And so when they are offering you things just to say that they're offering you things, even though they know that it's probably not going to serve you, and then telling you, oh, well, if you don't want to take this, then there's nothing that we can do, that's not operating in good faith. Not at all. So you're within your bounds. Right now, you have a leg to stand on of 3 years of required reasonable accommodation. Your job has not changed. Your condition has not changed. And they didn't even really have a significant reason to justify requiring you to do a recertification. Because what was that recertification based on? What changed? They got a new contract. Did your job change? Did your duties change? Did your medical condition change? All they should have been asking you were, is your reasonable accommodation still effective? Okay, you still have that condition? Okay, well, they could have said, can you have your provider send us documentation confirming that you still need your reasonable accommodation or whatever? And your doctor could have said, yes, the reasonable accommodation that she has is working and it's effective. She should continue indefinitely. That would have been the end of that. So the notion that they wanted to change it, but then actually did change it without grounds to do so, that also is problematic. Girl, let me know how you like to handle it, and I can see how I can help you out. Have a wonderful day.